So here we are behind the wheel of the F40. No, not that F40, the BMW F40, which is of course the 118i chassis code F40, which was first introduced for the 2020 model year. I'm sat inside the 2023 vehicle, and there hasn't been much changes. But let's talk about this vehicle itself. So, as you know, this vehicle is not available for sale in North America, unfortunately. But I'm visiting Europe here for a few days, and I've been lucky enough to get this as my rental vehicle. Now, the 118i here in Europe, rather, is the entry-level model for BMW. It costs right around 30,000 euros, and it comes equipped pretty basic from the factory. There are a few packages you can add thereafter, but from the get-go, it's a pretty plain and simple vehicle. Under the hood, it comes with your choice of a diesel engine or the gasoline engine. Most hatchbacks or most vehicles in Europe, whether that be a small hatchback like this or a full-size 3-row SUV, usually have a diesel engine just because of gasoline prices being so exorbitant. But this vehicle is actually equipped with a 1.5-liter inline 3-cylinder engine, which produces 130 horsepower and 126 pound-feet of torque. That may not sound like a lot of power on paper, but get behind the wheel of this thing and you'll quickly realize that you don't need any more power than that. I'm driving on some pretty tight roads at the moment, so please do bear with me. Yeah, I've driven this thing on all types of roads, whether that be mountain roads, whether that be through city traffic, or on the infamous Autobahn, and it's performed just well. Made into that engine is a 7-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission, with power being routed through the front wheels. This vehicle is available with all-wheel drive, or X-Drive all-wheel drive as it's called, but there is an upcharge for that. 0 to 60 times for this engine are right around 8.8 seconds, and it has a top speed of right around 250 kilometers an hour. That's pretty impressive for an engine that small. The rest of the vehicle is pretty good as well. It's efficient, it's stylish, and it's actually pretty darn loaded, especially in this specification here. This is equipped with what's known as the Essential Package, which gets you things like front and rear parking sonar, LED headlights basically throughout the vehicle, amongst other things as well. But this engine itself is really quite good. It's peppy and it gets up to speed rather quickly. Going back to driving on the Autobahn, I had no trouble keeping up with virtually every other vehicle on the Autobahn. As you know, the Autobahn is not one stretch of highway, but rather different sections. So you may have a section that, for people who haven't driven on the Autobahn before, which has no speed limit, then you'll come to a section, or rather hit a section, which may only have a speed limit of, say, 80 kilometers an hour. But this thing, again, in the left lane, had no trouble keeping up with virtually everything, and I easily got it up to 200 kilometers an hour, but my skill level didn't allow me to go any faster than that, even though the vehicle was eager to do so. I've been driving it here in Eco Pro, and it's been performing pretty well. On a full tank of gas, it will give me around 600 kilometers of range on a tank of fuel, depending on how you drive. I kind of have a heavy foot, so I kind of get less than that, which is my fault, of course. The transmission-wise, the transmission is actually pretty good as well. It hasn't really given me any trouble throughout this trip. There are certain times where it gets a bit jerky, especially at low speeds, or when the start-stop system kind of initiates. That's when you kind of feel a bit of roughness in the transmission, but when you get up and go, you can barely notice it even working in the background. Coming back to the start-stop system, actually, that's one of my complaints with driving this vehicle. I haven't had any problems with the engine itself, but I think this is simply a calibration issue with the start-stop system. Even though the start-stop system is off, and it clearly displays it in the digital instrument cluster, still, whenever I'm slowing down, the vehicle just has a tendency to just shut the engine off, and it's so unrefined when it does so that it just feels like the vehicle's stalling, actually, and that just feels so incredibly unrefined, and it feels like there's something mechanically wrong with the vehicle, especially when you have other passengers with you. But I think that's simply a software issue which BMW can rectify by, kind of playing with the RPMs and having the auto start-stop system go off when you come to a complete stop rather than when you're slowing down. Other than that, I really have no complaints with the powertrain or even the driving dynamics of the vehicle itself. It handles well. It's currently riding on all-weather tires, so there is a bit of road noise that protrudes inside the cabin, but of course, put some good rubber or put some summer rubber on this thing and it should do just fine. In terms of amenities on the inside, you have a digital instrument cluster and you also have your infotainment display. Everything in here is very simple, and if you have spent any time as well in a newer BMW product, you'll feel right at home in here. You have the rotary shifter, of course, which doesn't act like a normal shifter, but rather clicks into place. You have neutral, reverse, drive, and of course a button to initiate park again. You have a rear backup camera, which is really quite clear and gets the job done just fine, and you also have parking sonar like I mentioned in the front. You have a set of physical controls for both the radio and the climate control. Radio controls, you have a volume knob, but unfortunately no tuning knob, and you have 8 radio presets along with a tune button, not knob. In terms of drive modes, you have 3. You have Sport, Comfort, and Eco Pro. You have a auto hold feature which will hold the vehicle when you come to a stop, which works really well in traffic. Furthermore, the BMW 1 Series exudes good build quality on the inside, but there are some unfortunate instances of cost cutting. There is no locking glove compartment, and the vanity mirrors don't have any illumination. The center console is less plush than I would like, and some of the materials don't feel very premium. Apart from that, the 1 Series is a lovely place to be, and even occupants sitting in the back will have plenty of legroom and headroom, along with a set of USB Type-C charging plugs. The biggest surprise for me, however, comes in the back with a power liftgate. We don't get power liftgates in the North America on most hatchbacks, let alone BMW has been awesome enough to include it on this entry-level 118i. Kudos to them. So with that, guys, comes an end to this rather quick review. As always, if you would prefer to read a review rather than watch one, then go ahead and click the link in the description box below, which will direct you to my website. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next episode.